in Fundamentals, we have a diagnostic report. Again, this document should be included in any engagement where you're using Jazzit Fundamental templates, and I'll show you why. So I'm just going to go back and look at our example file. So let me just switch over to that. And up at the top, I have this document here, this diagnostics report, okay? So the diagnostics report has two main functions. One is to set global defaults. And if you've been with us for a long time, that's new. That didn't used to be there. I think it's been there for quite a while now, but it is relatively, over the last 20 years, it's fairly new, okay? The second part, again, indicate where diagnostics are open on certain documents. So in this case, it indicates where there's an update, just like in checklists, but it also indicates where there could be a difference between something on the financial or on that document and what's in the CaseWare trial balance, okay? So let's take a look at these global settings. So in the global settings, when I check off a particular item, now I'm going to go back and I'm at this top area here. I'm just going to open up this folder, okay? Here's where these global settings are. Okay. Now, in here, there's a diagnostic threshold. The administrator in your firm has set the diagnostic threshold in the resource center, and that is used by default in the financial statements to say, hey, after a certain rounding difference, we're going to start saying you have significant rounding differences and there's diagnostics coming up. Well, what's significant? That is that threshold that's set by the administrator. Now, in this case, that was $50. For working papers or any other document that has diagnostics other than financial statements, it's $50 appropriate. So in this case, if a diagnostic is in excess of $50, it will print on the bottom of the document. If it's less than $50, it will be on the screen, but it won't actually print. So if you want a diagnostic for your working papers that's different from your financial statements, you have an opportunity to set that in here under the global settings of this diagnostic report. Now the next item, when I check off one of these items, it then becomes a global setting. If I don't check it off, it can be set individually in the working paper, okay? So if I set this option here, set the working paper references on roll forward, on all those documents with working paper references, we could either retain or clear those references on roll forward, okay? And if I go into an actual document with references, so if I just go back into my document manager and I open up something like property, plant, well, how about prepaids? Let's do that, okay? So for prepaids, if I go into the settings here, what I'm gonna notice is that that particular option right now is actually a default. So the only thing I can do is come in and edit the default if I want. When I take the check mark out of that, I just want to show you how that's different. So that means that in individual documents, we could set to retain or clear, but when we check off the global option, then it's going to be forced to one of those options for all those documents. Hope I haven't lost anybody in there. Okay, now the draft stamp. Normally, if you put the draft stamp on in the financial statements, so I think in this case, do I have that turned on? No, I don't. So let me turn that on. So under display here, I'm just going to turn on my draft stamp. So by default, if I was in a working paper, so I'll go back to the prepaids here, I would see a draft stamp on there, and I may not want that. So one of the options that's on in the diagnostic report is we can make it different, okay? So right now it's actually globally set, but it's set to be the same as a financial. So I could just say, I don't ever want that draft on there. And if that was set to that, then when I do a preview of our prepaid, you notice there's no draft stamp, even though the financial statement has a watermark on it, okay? So these are very useful, all right? So confidentiality notice, this is for letters. And if you turn that on, then in the top left or right side, you can have whatever words you want, for example. So I could say it's private or strictly confidential. and I can make that bold if I like. So I've got it set to, and I'll make it right align. So if I'm in a letter, like the engagement letter, you can see that I've added that into the letters. So we can make that a global setting, and if we don't, we could turn it on for a specific letter. Okay. Let's go back to our diagnostic report one more time, and I'm just going to get down to the bottom. If your client's out of the country, you can have the country, so it'll just say Canada or whatever country they're in below the inside address on the letters. So the lower area here, when there's an update available for a document, instead of a check mark, you see the attention symbol. You can double click right on the documents identifier to open the document and do an update from Resource Center. If there's an open diagnostic for a particular document, it will appear just below the title for that document. At the very top in the freeze frame here, we have an option to show all diagnostics. What that's doing is if the document is found in this engagement, but there are no open diagnostics, it will still say, yeah, I see it. There's no issue with it. Okay, so you may prefer that, or you may just want to filter it down to where do we have problems. Once that's all clear and this is blank, we're good to go. Okay. All right. Did I miss anything there, Lori?
I don't think so. I mean, these are really nice features to be able to set certain options all in one place, because it really beats having to go into every single document and setting them individually.
Absolutely. And you know what? That really is based on feedback we've gotten over the years from people saying, this is a pain. I want to be able to just set it this way and have it that way.